Now for more, Harry Campbell, founder of the Rideshare Guy blog, joins us live now from California. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So give us your take on how this is playing out for Uber in London.
Yeah, so I think that as we sort of saw in the report, this is not a good thing for Uber. People say that London actually is anywhere from 3 to 5% of the market for Uber across the world. So it's a very important market to them. And I think that it lines up with what we see in a lot of the other bigger cities. Right now in New York City, in California, regulators are taking a step back and thinking when Uber came along, there were a lot of proponents of this service. But now we're seeing that maybe too much of Uber can be a bad thing. And regulators are looking at everything from the wages that they're paying drivers to these important issues like safety.
So then talk about the safety measures that Uber has taken since its safety issues were first flagged 2 years ago by regulators and really sort of how effective they've been.
Yeah, so I mean, Uber, to their credit, has done a lot over the years to improve the safety, and I would even argue that there are inherent safety features built into the app, right? Just the fact that you're not hailing a ride off of the street, you're hailing it on an app, so there is a digital record of it. You can rate drivers at the end of each and every trip, and so you sort of, that hopefully weeds out some of the bad drivers. And in London specifically, the sign-up process to become a driver is actually much more laborious than in other cities around the world. We have a guest post on our site from a driver in London, an Uber driver, and it took him nearly 8 months. He had to pass a medical exam, he had to pass a map test, he had to do a couple other things just to get approved. So it isn't quite as simple as it is in other cities to become approved to be an Uber driver.
Now, it's hard because even with those extra measures, we saw the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, saying that he agreed with the decision and that over the last few months, 14,000 Uber journeys were given by drivers who had fraudulently uploaded someone else's photo and passed it off as their own. How are other ride-sharing companies managing these identity and safety issues?
Yeah, and I think that's really a key part of this. Well, first, the 14,000 number, to me, that sounds like 14,000 trips. So not to lessen the severity of it, but if it was only a handful of drivers and they were doing hundreds or thousands of trips, it may not be 14,000 drivers, for example, that are causing all of these issues. But at the same time, when I heard this report, it really sounded to me like it might just be something as simple as drivers sharing accounts, which is definitely not a good thing. But it does sort of show that Uber and other ride-sharing companies around the world have done some improvements on the safety side when they're onboarding new drivers, but they're not doing a whole lot once drivers are on the platform. They're not doing a whole lot to ensure that the driver that comes to pick you up each and every single time is the driver who they say they are. They're kind of relying on the passengers to report, to look at a small grainy picture, a grainy photo that a driver may have uploaded and see if that matches with who it's supposed to be.
So then for other cities who are watching what's going on in London, do you see there being any potential ramifications in terms of perhaps how they're looking at Uber?
Yeah, and I think this is why it's such a big issue for Uber, is that obviously London is a huge and important market to Uber, but it's a global city and it's sort of a leader in the transportation space, not only in Europe, but around the world. And so a lot of other cities, I think, are looking to places like London to see how they regulate. And I think, frankly, Uber may be getting singled out a little bit in this situation. They kind of have this reputation, and probably rightfully so, that they have bashed with regulators in the past. They kind of came in to the city of London and had issues with not only the cab drivers, but also the local politicians. And even though they may have made some legitimate improvements to safety over the years, I don't think they get the benefit of the doubt. So it's sort of an important lesson, not only for them, but other companies that are dealing with regulators kind of around the world.
Certainly tougher when you're sort of that name to beat in terms of other ride-sharing companies. I do want to look at some of their new potential safety measures that they're trying to introduce in Brazil and Mexico, including audio recordings of trips. Do you think these measures go far enough or perhaps open up more problems when it comes to things like privacy?
Yeah, so there are some definite obvious privacy concerns with recording audio and video, but I think these are the types of innovative steps that I would like to see a company, a multi-billion-dollar company like Uber, go out and at least experiment with, at least go out and try, because right now, as it is, there's a lot of technology that's available to Uber that they can use, audio and video being one of them, since drivers and passengers are connected through an app. And I think that the way they go about it is going to be really important. And I think that it'll be essential to sort of consult the top privacy experts and understand, the opt-in versus opt-out, and just ensure, because, Uber, the company, is doing millions of rides around the globe, but with millions of rides, there are going to be issues that arise. And I think the audio recording could sort of, help, for example, really clarify what happened in this situation. And ultimately, I think for drivers specifically, either prove them that they were in the right or in the wrong.
And with this extra focus on Uber, and obviously it's trying to branch out into other areas, what's your outlook for the company's growth?
Well, I think that right now, their stock price is down 40% since IPO, and they really, they've said that they're shifting towards profitability. I don't see a clear path towards profitability, but it seems like they do need to venture out into all of these other areas. In just the past few months, they've focused on everything from Uber Elevate to Uber Money and kind of adding on all of these ancillary services, which, to be fair, there are a lot of rideshare companies around the world that are looking at similar problems, but I do think it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle, but they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
All right, great to have you. Harry Campbell there, founder of the Rideshare Guide blog.